with the United Nations having now taken on the question of human mobility, I believe we're very early in the process. This Global Compact, and I underline for migration, not on migration. This is the Global Compact for safe, orderly, and regular migration, in my opinion, is going to be the beginning of a process that I hope 10, 20, even 30 years from now, we're going to look back and say, thank God at least we put it on the right track. And it's one of these tracks I'd like to talk to you about. I think that in the traditional way in which we look at human mobility, we have essentially two traditional pillars. The humanitarian pillar, which is where we deal mostly with refugees, and I'll say refugee plus. It's sort of an expanded, not just a narrow interpretation of the Refugee Convention, but the humanitarian sector. And the whole rest of it is sort of the economic pillar, and that's why we call everybody else, unfortunately nowadays very pejoratively, economic migrants. I think what this UN initiative has done, but in my view maybe more rhetorically than in reality, is really open up a very challenging third pillar, the development pillar. And when we think about policy issues, I'd like to put to you that if we are going to go beyond the rhetoric, it's going to be very challenging to seriously inject a real development angle in a lot of migration policies. This development anchor, and again, rhetorically, it is said all the time, is found in the SDGs, in Sustainable Development Goal 10, which, in my opinion, quite miraculously sets as an objective the reduction of inequalities within and between countries. There must have been a few of these countries asleep when that was agreed upon, because I find it, especially in today's environment, somewhat miraculous that the world has set itself as an objective the reduction of inequality, something I applaud, but I have to say I find quite surprising. So let's make sure that this was not just an oversight. And of course, migration is situated right there as one of the instruments that can assist in the reduction of inequalities within and between countries. It doesn't go very far. Not surprisingly, it talks about remittances, and that's already progress. I mean, you know that 10, 15 years ago, remittances were bad news for countries of destination, right? There was the 15% money that went out of the country somewhere else. Now, of course, we've shifted that paradigm. Remittances are a good thing. They're a tool of development, and I could get to this in more details. This is very familiar to you. But I will suggest to you that there's a lot more to the relationship between development and migration than remittances. And I don't think we're there in a lot of our conversations by a long shot. It's hard enough to get all our policies straight in the humanitarian pillar. It's hard enough to get it straight. There's a lot of sophisticated work that needs to be done, a lot of it being done in this center on the kind of economic model. But I think if we're going to be serious in injecting a real development perspective, and we need to, because I think one of the ways to curtail unsafe, irregular migration and to favor safe, orderly, and regular migration will require opening more legal pathways, a variety of legal pathways. They cannot be all to the benefit of countries of destination. At some point, I would argue that countries of destination, rich countries, will have to be willing to absorb some cost for an enormous benefit to developing countries who, amongst other things, are going to see, in some cases, demographic increases that could be an economic dividend for them if, in fact, we put a little bit of oxygen in their governance and their economies.